Hi, welcome to my space. My name is Ashley. I'm a teacher in training and just teaching concepts that I'm trying to get my head around. My teacher says that when you articulate things that you're contemplating, you make them your own, and it helps you to become a better student, and teaching it is the best way to start. In one of my videos, I share that the thing that I'm most interested in learning and being a student of is truth. I study a system called the Fourth Way. This system is a practical means and methods of self-discovery. So it teaches tools and principles. And if I'm going to teach truth, I think that the yoke of it is for self-observation and to ultimately understand, discover yourself, to sort of walk through this world with a little bit more confidence and understanding. So a practical method of self-observation in the pursuit of understanding truth is, let's just say, Fourth Way's chief experience that you're aiming towards is having an experience of I am. Finding what's the nature of your reality, and what is the barriers you have to overcome in order to self-remember. Self-remembering is the result of self-observation. So there's many ways to go about beginning self-observation, and let's just say I'll start with the idea that we tend to think that we are just one individual person. So you start to study yourself from sun up to sundown, and just to give you a little bit of quick observations that you can see autopilot when you are finding yourself at home without remembering and realizing like how you got there, you are sort of slipping into a version of yourself. When you find yourself being a different version in a certain party, around your family, your friends, which I is showing up? So you either have like a complete I showing up, a personality, a role, a character, some version of you, and Brene Brown calls it a representative. And we have multiple representatives. So when we say I, who are we talking about? So the observation begins when you're noticing the truth about your situation. Your situation, who you are is a who you are's. So noticing that from an objective standpoint and not taking it lightly, experiencing the tensions and the sort of lack of control that you have at any turn to call the shots of who the baton is getting handed off to. So noticing throughout the day how many different eyes and hats that you put on, where one eye will say, I'm going to start this diet, and the other eye is at the refrigerator looking for some ice cream. So having just that method of observation and then applying it deeper of like, how did you not see that before? And it's not of like shame on you, but noticing that you didn't notice. So the observation goes a little bit deeper of what else do I not have control over? What else is automated? What else is mechanical? So you start to realize, okay, I've got this truth that there's multiple versions of me that are showing up and passing the baton whenever they want to. I don't have control over it. And if there's going to be anything that you're going to put your efforts into under self-observation, whether you're going to journal it, tell somebody about it, or however you're going to record it, there needs to be an acknowledgement of how many multiple yous shows up in the day. And then there becomes the idea of how can we not necessarily eliminate them, because I think with grace, we build these personalities and behavioral traits, whether they're survival tools that we picked up when we were younger, or they're just a means to fill the void of when it feels like when we're not lovable. So we don't want to cast them off necessarily, but maybe we want to like wrangle them up. And so there's no one particular you that's making the decisions. And this is true. If you think about decisions and you can't answer them in confidence for yourself and you ask somebody else, you already have an idea of what other version inside of you may or may not already trust. Usually the person you ask is likely a mimic off of one of the identities that you have inside of you, one of the eyes that you have inside of you. And so you witness them, you wrangle them up, and then you put them in what is something called a deputy sheriff, something more gravity, more foundational, rooted in something that you have now noticed that you might have these multiple eyes, but with some type of observation, you can see that there is one that kind of consistently shows up that's a little bit more like you, or at least the version of you that you want to be. And then start practicing how much and how often you could be that version. And then becomes like a whole nother scenario of it's so hard for you to reach and get to that version of yourself that you also come to the truth of it's almost impossible without this knowledge and awareness to do anything different than what we've already been programmed and habitually doing. It's very challenging to change our habitual thoughts, behaviors, eating, activity, whatever it might be, or even our attitude, our personality. It's hard to change those things. So when you notice why you already have these obstacles, that truth, I think, gives you power and encouragement to not be hard on yourself. Just to notice these things in an objective way of like, okay, yep, I see. I'm struggling to understand myself because there's multiple. So, okay, like let's narrow it down and take a little bit more inventory on who's who and who's doing what and who's in charge of what, and how challenging it is to wrangle up this, what's going on in here. One of my teachers says that watching your mind and being cognizant of what it's doing is like watching a puppy, and it's just gonna like pee everywhere. So you have to be on top of it and make sure that it's not switching over from the original plan that you've decided. Like this is how it usually works. So we're not necessarily we're unaware of it. So when you start to study truth and you play this into the practice of self-observation, and you're honest with what you find, not just like, oh yeah, it is what it is. And I mean, like if that's your case, then we're not, the fourth way is not for you. Understanding who you are objectively is not for you. I get it. That's not, you're not supposed to be here technically. So if you're really into like, how can I overcome any obstacles that are keeping me from these various things that I would like to actually have in my life. So imagine this. So imagine you're in a relationship. So just keeping to the one principle that you could practice for self-observation is how many multiple eyes you have. And let's just say that every time you went to go speak to your lover, you didn't know who you were going to get. You were going to get the financial accountant of the person who's terrified of money. You're going to get the janitor who's like only cares about the house being clean. You're going to get the sex addict. You're going to get the lover. You're going to get the dad. You're going to get the clean, whatever. You have multiple versions of yourself inside, and you know this. You could see this in other people. So imagine how difficult it is to trust somebody when they are radically and erratically changing their different eyes before you. How can you create even any trust in who they truly are? So you can see this in other people, and now imagine it for yourself. If you don't have the ability to stay honest, which defined in A Course in Miracles is consistency, and consistency is truth. Like you know what exactly you're going to do. You're available to make the decision. What we end up having with these multiple eyes, and apply this as well, is when you're practicing and you're noticing that like you have these multiple eyes that are just passing off the baton over and over again. When you have that experience and you notice, wow, I have no control, like whatsoever, then you can notice like, wow, okay, so the truth is that when I think I want to do X, Y, or Z, these other eyes, behaviors, traits, beliefs, all these things come in and start taking over what I've already decided. And then it's grace. Like I did, not that you don't have a choice and you're like a victim of it, but in a way you are. So this type of lesson, this type of work with finding yourself is for the brave, not the ones who are okay with being a victim of their life and a victim of the programming that they have going on. Observe yourself, remember yourself, and have the tools and the methods to understand yourself and be in self-authority. I hope this makes a little bit of sense. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much for being in my space. Have a happy day.